On this episode of Micromatic, we're going to talk about the Olympus 45mm lens. So I want to tell you guys about this bad boy right here. This is, in fact, without a doubt, my favorite Micro Four Thirds lens. I have, 5 or 6 Micro Four Thirds lenses, and of all of them, this is the one that I use the most. Part of that's just because the focal length at 45mm suits me quite well, but as I'll show you later on, it also has a lot of really cool characteristics to the lens that lend themselves toward great photographs. So this 45mm focal length is actually really good for portraits. It's a traditional portrait focal length. It's good for taking pictures of people kind of head up, and you get nice close in, nice creamy bokeh in the background. But you can also step back and turn it into a full body portrait if you want to, if you've got the space for it. That said, I still use this for landscape photography as well, even though it's maybe a little bit atypical to use a lens of this focal length for landscape. It actually suits me quite well. And I guess rather than talk too much about how much I love this lens, I'll just show you some of my favorite pictures that I've taken with it, and you can kind of judge for yourself. So now what you're probably seeing in the photographs is you're seeing lovely creamy bokeh. This lens opens up to f1.8, which means it lets in a lot of light, and it's going to give you that really narrow depth of field that a lot of people love in their photographs, myself included. But beyond opening wide and giving you that narrow depth of field, this lens has other great characteristics. One, it's incredibly sharp. You get a lot of detail out of it, even at f1.8. You can stop it down to, say, f2.8. You'll get even a little bit more detail, but honestly, you can shoot wide open without feeling guilty, like you're sacrificing image quality, because this little lens is so good. Other great things about the lens, autofocus is so snappy, so fast. This is one of, I think, maybe my second Micro Four Thirds lens. This is what I bought. And it's kind of spoiled me because now I expect every lens to autofocus as quickly as this does. And they don't all. I mean, most lenses on the system focus quick enough, right? But this thing is just incredibly fast. Now, the snappy autofocus is really useful when you are trying to photograph things that are moving quickly. Let's say animals or kids or velociraptors. I don't know, whatever you're shooting pictures of, if they're moving, you want fast autofocus, and this lens is just ridiculous. Another great characteristic of this lens is that it doesn't flare really at all. You can kind of point it directly at the sun, and where some other lenses are going to give you a little flare, right? Maybe it's just a spot of green in the corner or something. This lens doesn't seem to flare at all. I don't know exactly how it does it, but you can point this lens directly at the sun, take a picture of the sun setting over a glistening ocean, right? This is like a horrible scenario for flare, and the 45mm lens doesn't seem to give a crap. I gotta be honest, there are no real weaknesses with the Olympus 45mm lens. Perhaps the biggest challenge is just dealing with the focal length. 45mm is a fairly long focal length, right? It's not a wide angle lens at all. And for people that need to shoot wide angle, well, you're kind of not going to get that with this lens. If you're indoors a lot, right? Shooting pictures of people at a bar or at a party or whatever, you usually want a wider angle lens, and this is going to be a bit of a challenge. This is going to give you a bunch of headshots rather than body shots. And you want a body shot at a bar, don't you? The focal length, 45mm, works pretty well for me. I tend to shoot a little telephoto. I feel like most people are used to shooting wide angle, right? If you're shooting with your phone, your iPhone, for example, it has an equivalent focal length of roughly 17mm versus this 45mm, right? So you can see at 17, you've got a pretty wide angle of view. 45, you're narrowing that field of view. And if you're used to shooting at 17, if you're used to shooting on an iPhone, switching directly to this lens might be a bit jarring, and it might take some getting used to. And while I have some reservations about recommending the 45mm as your first Micro Four Thirds lens, I fully endorse it as your second Micro Four Thirds lens. It's a great complement to a more standard wide angle to normal focal length lens. Again, like I started with this video, this is my favorite Micro Four Thirds lens. If I could have only one Micro Four Thirds lens, it would be this one, because this, for me, epitomizes what the system is all about. It's all about tiny lenses, great performance, and a decent price. If you thought this video was helpful, maybe share it with a friend, subscribe to the channel, and stick around for my cat. I'll see you next time on the next episode of Micromatic.